Welcome to Cigar City Radio, episode 67. I'm making the magic happen, and here's your host, Randy Ojeda.
I don't like this at all. I don't like it at all. But let's just keep it. Let's just keep it.
All right, yeah, we'll keep it rolling.
If you want more, you can find all our episodes on iTunes / Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on Stitcher, basically on every major podcasting platform. Just search Cigar City Radio. You'll probably find us. You can also find us, of course, direct at our website, cigarcityradio.com, or you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at Cigar City Radio. Cigar City Management is proud to announce our first official South by Southwest showcase. We are now official, Jason. The South by Southwest Overlord said we exist. And that's happening Friday, March 16th at Lambert's in downtown Austin. And it's featuring Fruit and Flowers, Ex-Girlfriends, The Fantastic Plastics, Send Medicine, Parrot Dream, and Death Hags. Doors open at 7 p.m., but we're partying all the way to the legally mandated 2 a.m. cutoff time. That's a city of Austin.
Man, that's late.
Mandate. Yeah, 2 a.m. 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. So if you're heading to South by Southwest, come hang with us Friday, March 16th. For more details, head to cigarcitymanagement.com/SXSW2018.
March 16th. That's a mandate.
Yeah, it is.
The episode you're about to listen was recorded at the world-famous Blind Tiger Cafe in the heart of Ybor City, Tampa, Florida. The Blind Tiger Cafe is a speakeasy-inspired coffee house that serves vegan pastries, coffee, tea, beer, kombucha, etc., etc., etc.
Our guest on this episode is two-time. I said two-time, Jason. Two-time.
Matt Reisinger?
No, you're just supposed to say two-time.
Two-time.
There you go. Two-time guest.
and Matt.
Yeah, two-time guest, Matthew Reisinger, the artist more popularly known as Fr33dback, who you might remember from way, way back in episode 4 of the podcast, one of our very first episodes. Based out of his Seminole Heights studio, Fr33dback makes some of the most intricate electronic music I've ever heard, with an absolutely phenomenal live show with visuals and lights and all this mad scientist gear on stage. Matt's incredibly talented. He does so much stuff in addition to just making music. He does audio engineering and voice acting and live sound and lighting and production work, you name it. So go out and see him live. Again, it's an absolutely amazing performance. He's playing every night of Okeechobee Music Festival down south in Okeechobee, Florida. And he's also playing Gasparilla Music Festival right here in our backyard at Curtis Hickson. That's happening Saturday, March 10th. At 5:45 p.m. That's his set time. But you should definitely check out all of Gasparilla Music Festival because it's going to be awesome, and we're going to be there, so you can say hi to us. But for more on all things Fr33dback, head to fr33dback.com. That's Fr33dback.com.
Joining us on this episode is Cigar City Radio veteran and music editor at Creative Loafing, Ray Roa. You'll notice that he's been on several of our episodes as well as a featured guest on one of our episodes. We like having him back to talk to our musical guests because he's one of the most plugged in people in Tampa to music. Not only does he talk to the highest profile artists via phoners and when they're in town, he also speaks to anyone locally to try to get the word about the local scene out. So if you're interested in reading some Ray Roa goodness on Creative Loafing, just look up Ray Roa Creative Loafing. It'll pop up. Google's magical.
You'll find it. As Ray once said on our very podcast, he wants to be in everyone's Wikipedia page, and he's working on it.
He's working on it. I think he'll succeed.
Yeah. So here it is, episode 67. episode 4, way back.
Wow.
Way back.
What is it now? What episode?
This will be episode like 66 or 67.
Congrats. That's great.
So it's been it's been a while since we've sat
Times
down.
are changing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And so we're hanging out with Fr33dback.
Yeah.
Who has first off, it's your birthday today.
It's my birthday.
So happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
And of course, we're joined by a somewhat regular guest on our podcast.
I'm like a groupie, hanging around, like trying to get in always,
Yeah, of course, the Mr. Ray Roa from Creative
Sabotaging other
Loathing,
guests.
friend of the show. Who you're my dad's favorite, I guess, character on the show on the podcast.
Nice.
He's always like,
When's
that's
Ray
a good
back
thing.
on?
yeah, that's what he tells me. He's like, I like that Ray guy.
get Ray
He's
back.
really good at saying stuff. That's what he said.
Hear that?
Which is kind of
Dad's
true.
like
Like
me.
that's you in a nutshell. Really good at saying stuff.
Yeah, you can't really tell. You can't notice the typos when I'm speaking.
That's
So-
true. So good at saying stuff. Which, just as an aside, did you start some Twitter beef last night? Because I saw you had a tweet about, I don't know who it was.
Oh, you know what? It was about Tanner Jones.
Okay.
From You Blew It. So
Yes.
he got booked to open up for Cam Boucher at Mojo.
Uh-huh.
But I'm kind of like, Tanner's nice to me, you know what I mean? So I made a joke about how bad his jokes were.
That's what I saw. You said something
Yeah.
like he has, his music is
A
plus
music,
but B
joke for a
minus,
B minus. That's the worst.
which honestly isn't that bad. A B
I
minus.
was
I'll
very
take
kind.
I'll take B minus.
My
jokes.
parents
I mean,
wouldn't be mad at me for that.
We're a solid C here at Cigar City
right.
Radio. So
Just
if
average.
we could get to B minus joke level, I'd be cool with
Yeah.
that.
No, it was all good.
Okay,
We,
all right.
we spoke in person.
All
He's
right.
cool.
I was
Super
like,
sweet to
man,
me.
he's throwing shots
Yeah,
over here.
no,
This
no,
guy's
no, no,
comedy.
no. I love that guy's band. So
That's what I figured.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
figured.
And he's like a huge soccer fan. He's a dude you should talk to, actually.
Yeah, we should talk to. But so,
Right.
Matt,
Yes.
Fr33dback, you are having an insanely busy start to 2018.
Yeah.
All right. So you're on Gasparilla Music Fest, which is like we're about less than a month away.
Yes.
Like
I
3-4
am.
weeks
This will be
away.
my first Gasparilla Music Fest. I'm super excited.
That is really cool. And
Yeah.
then you just announced this weekend that you're also doing Okeechobee Music Festival.
I am. Yeah.
So
super cool.
Like that's coming up really
Even
soon, too.
before.
Even that's before Gasparilla
That's the
Music
beginning
Fest.
of
So
March,
like in the
yeah.
next month, you're doing
Yeah.
2 major festivals in
Yeah.
the area, and you seem to be like playing really regularly, doing a lot of great opening slots.
yeah, it's been really great.
Yeah. How's that all coming for you?
I mean, it's the most organic thing I've ever done in my life. Like most other things, it seems like I've had to push for and like try at and like fail a couple times and then whatever. But this is like the first wave that has just continued, and I'm just like, still going? All right, cool. And then like something else cool comes along, and I'm just super thankful to be in the situation that I am, to where I can like be a part of, the city of Tampa and what we're doing here, and then the festival life, and it's just cool to be in the scene again.
I was actually thinking about that because I was on the Gasparilla Music Fest page earlier, and I was looking at different artists, and they have an embed where you can see like their songs on Spotify or whatever, and
Sure.
I'm like, damn, yeah, Fr33dback doesn't have anything
Yeah.
out.
I
Like,
don't,
You don't have
yeah.
any music out, so
Yeah.
all of this growth is like really word of mouth,
Yeah.
live shows, like
Sure.
people just going and actually checking out
Yeah.
the experience.
That's kind of how I started my music career way back when. So like just trying to be a live act and like get people to understand it from that perspective. It's so hard to do in recorded fashion that like, there's stuff online that I could show you on my like SoundCloud or whatever, but even that stuff's pretty old. So like, it's more fun for me to just perform. So maybe I'll just start releasing like mixtapes of just performing or something. I don't know. It's like I'm not sure what the next step will be in terms of physical media or streaming media.
yeah.
You know,
Well, it's definitely like the show is something you have to see because first off, you're one guy, which is cool. When it's one guy making a lot of sounds.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it.
Sure.
And like when we first saw you and we talked, back in episode 4,
Sure.
it was primarily instrumental and
Yeah.
electronic stuff, but now you're really adding in vocals and
Yep.
a lot of different like looping and layering and like the show, like I can tell you've really been working at the show.
yeah. I think like understanding the sort of narrative to the story of what the music is, like it needs some drama, and I think just the fact that I've been able to play so many shows lately, I've just been able to every time. Honestly, I haven't changed the set, quote unquote, since I started playing. You know what I mean? But every show is a different show because it's how do I navigate those songs, like what to do with the elements or what to add and what to subtract. So like every time I'm just kind of experiencing that same album again and again, just in a new way. And then something new kind of calls to me on a song, and I'm like, oh, let's just chase that for a while, see what happens. And then, so it just becomes like this really fun journey for me. So playing live is like the most engaged my brain can be, because I'm just controlling all of these sort of variables that are just randomly changing because of how complex the system is, both in audio and lights and visuals and everything. It's just this big machine, and then I'm trying to basically just coax it into doing something, melodic.
I think that's what people don't. I like that you say it every time you play, but people might not realize it, like when it's happening in front of them. But literally, he's piecing this stuff together, either through the synth or through Ableton.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he's hitting play on something. Like, he has to build this thing.
Yeah.
And he does it every time. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy, because it's weird to hear you say that it's the same set.
Yeah.
Because I've seen you a few times, and I've always felt like it was a different set.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's my
that.
goal, like to try to make it seem as new to anyone who's like, if someone's seen me before, I want them to have a new experience. But if I were to show them the experience before, like layer it on top of each other and just find the moments where like, well, here's that thing that you remember from this moment. Here's this thing, it's just kind of this amorphous blob that kind of comes together. Yeah, so
I always gravitate towards the watch, whatever watch he's wearing. He's always got a sweet watch on too.
Yeah, dude.
I remember seeing you in St. Pete. I'm trying to think of the venue right now, but it was the first time I'd seen you do the Beatles, like Yesterday, sort of. I don't want to call it a cover, because it's not. It's like it's almost like you break the song down to its essence. You know, like you're like rebuilding Beatles Yesterday, you know? And that actually gave me goosebumps, like watching you put that together was such a cool thing.
I mean, that song is one of those songs, like everyone listened to the Beatles as a kid because their parents had the records and whatever, but like Yesterday was the song that like I remember like falling asleep to on cassette, and it was just a song that was ingrained in me just as a melody and as a arrangement. So it's kind of one of those songs that I can always find the pitch of the song because I'm so used to where it normally lives. And the whole reason I introduced it to the set is because the next song in the set, I wanted to start a cappella. And there's some elements that I've created that would be great to introduce to them, but I have to make sure that I'm in tune with those elements. So if I sing that song to myself, I can get myself in the key of C major so that I can introduce this new version of my own song. So it's kind of like started as a way to bridge the gap. Yeah. And then it just became a way to make a big song happen and then take the song away, just have a vocal singing a song that people will remember, and then have that vocal continue to sing something now strange and new, and then elements start building on top of that, which is kind of this, it's a perfect, like you said, breakdown. It's like the breakdown of the set.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how long do you spend like working on this and tinkering with these kind of aspects of the set? Because it sounds like that sounds really like you've really clearly thought that out.
That's
not something that just happened on accident.
That's a great question, because it's weird. I feel like, in my perspective, I don't spend any time on it. You know what I mean? Like, it just happens naturally. So like, I'm not like scheduling my day of like, okay, I'm going to work on this thing and that's how we're going to finalize what it should be like. It's just, I'm having this, since it's a one-man band like you're describing, I can have the boardroom meeting with myself and figure things out without even having to slow down. So like, it was really just more of a feeling that night. That was probably maybe the second or third time I had done it when you saw me. But I think I introduced that element for the Don't Stop St. Pete Festival.
Oh, right on.
I hadn't done it before then, and I really wanted to try it and see what happened. And literally, it was just a couple hours that week thinking like singing the melody and understanding, oh, well, that's actually the same key as this other song. Interesting. How could I do that? And then it just, it happened in my brain to be like, yep, that's how it should work. And, we all agreed.
That's you didn't have to leave that one to a vote.
Yeah, right. So and then that moment also too became one of the things that people mentioned, like you were describing. So then I'm like, okay, it's like a stand-up comedian being on stage and like you're using your material and going, okay, what got laughs? What was a bomb? Where should I move things? Like, what's my closer? You know, that's definitely how I work my music.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, that's a really good analogy because it is almost like you're working at like a stand-up comic where you're constantly like going through your set and perfecting it.
Yep.
You know, so I could see that how with all the shows that you've been playing in the last year, you know, you would get to.
It's finally starting to sound like something interesting.
There's got to be like some shows that you've like bombed or moments that you felt like were terrible and you just wanted to walk off stage. So it's like, I'm curious from, you know, as an onlooker, what are those moments? Like, what are the things that you hate when they happen? Like when you want to slam your head against the wall, and then how do you recover from that in practice, or whatever, or however you rebuild the song, and then how do you overcome that and make it right for the next time that you play?
That is a wonderful question because I deal with this feeling every time I perform.
Okay.
Like it is a constant, you know, self-deprecation, nagging moment where like something's not right. You know, that could have been better. That could have been better. So, you know, you just, as long as you're passionate about what you do, I feel like everyone has that like critical eye for themselves. So my first step is always just to try to be in the moment, turn off my brain in terms of what I want to do. Just try to let my lizard brain take over and like muscle memory my way through it.
This is after you've made the mistake and you're back home, or while you're still on stage?
While I'm on stage, I'm trying not to think.
Okay.
If I can.
Right.
If I can just disconnect my problem-solving brain for a little bit.
Right.
And then if a problem does arise, introduce a little bit of it, but then, you know, get back to where I was going.
Right.
And it happens all the time, you know, working with electronics, with a computer involved as well, which is, as a sequencer, like, you're bound to have some sort of issues with latency or with, you know, the USB hub is changing the... like the clock of the MIDI as opposed to when I'm plugging it into like an actual MIDI cable. So like things just happen not to work, or the lights aren't triggering. They should definitely be triggering right now. What should I do? So like there's definitely, it's playing every moment of that performance is playing catch up in some way, but trying to make it look like it's not a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's just, okay, that's great. But you know, and then afterwards, when people ask me, you know, how'd you feel, whatever, inside, there's the whole list of things to be like, well, this was bad,
and then you just go,
it was awesome, I had a great time, so good. Thanks for coming. You know, hope to see you next time. Because I felt that's a great way to approach it too, because I don't want somebody else to think that I didn't have a good time while I was on stage, because I really did. So I've been in the past when I was in another band and, you know, we didn't come in at the same time, or somebody's guitar was out of tune. Yeah, Select Start.
Right on.
Could have been any band, but Select Start.
Select Start specifically.
Yeah. And I remember getting off stage with Select Start, and people would be like, you know, you guys did great. And then I think all of us were mostly like, nah, you know, like we could have done better. Like we kind of messed this up. And that attitude I felt was like, we could definitely just, you know, if we say we did great and we enjoyed what we did, the people they don't feel what we felt, you know? So it's way easier to just be like, yeah, things went well. And then, you know, yeah, sure, they went well. Like they experienced it going well also. So it's kind of like keeps the mystique alive, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's what I always try to tell bands too, is like, you know, not to be too hard on yourself when you're performing live, because 99% of the time the audience has no idea that you messed up, unless you really, really mess up. Yeah. Which at that point you just gotta live with it.
Yeah, you know? And then you laugh it off. Like there's definitely been like my brain that controls basically everything on stage. The only place to put it that's like symmetrical, and I really do like the idea to set up symmetrically, is right in the middle, right by my feet. And there's a power switch on the front, maybe half a foot up, which if I were to press with my hand, it turns off everything on stage. Basically, it's like the kill switch.
You shouldn't tell people that.
So I'm getting into it, I'm grooving, and I lift my leg and just flip, and like music stops. I'm like, and then I'm into it. So I'm looking around like, okay, what did I do? And I find I'm like, oh, back on. And then in that moment of everything being dead, you know, to be like, guys, this is all live. Like, sorry, can't help it. You know what I mean? So it kind of humanizes you too. You know what I mean? Because if you play electronic music, people automatically assume that it's going to go off without a hitch because a computer's controlling it, and that couldn't be further from the truth if you're trying to really do something creative with electronics and computers. Like, you're always on a razor's edge of not working. Like, something's going to go out of tune, something's going to, miss a cue, and that's just part of the fun, really.
And then what's interesting is like kind of back to the stand-up comedy analogy, I guess here is that with stand-up you're up there on your own, and that's kind of the same with you. Like when you were in Select Start or any other random band,
sure,
but specifically Select Start, you would if you mess up, you have the rest of the band to fall back on. Right. But if you're up on stage on your own, it's just you. Like that's really. That's the nerve-wracking thing for me. I've never been able to perform by myself. Like, just I don't know. I don't know how you do that.
It's definitely a challenge, regardless of any time that you'll never be super comfortable enough to where like it's not going to be. All right, let's see what happens. Like, let's make sure like you pep yourself up a little bit before you go on stage. The stage fright has left years ago. So like I never feel that I'm nervous for a crowd to see me or for a person to hear what I'm making, but I just want to make sure that I give them the best experience that I can, because I know that if I do, that they might come back, and that's what drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, clearly, like, you're doing something right, because you
wouldn't
keep getting all these gigs if you weren't.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, for a while I was like, dude, this guy's gigging a lot. Like I was like, he's almost gigging too much. Yeah. but I get that you want to get out there and like do the show. I was like, this guy's playing freaking everywhere. It was wild, and you always wanted to go see it. It's not like it's not like something that you're like, I've seen it. I've seen it already. You're like, dude, I got to see this again. You know what I mean? Because it's crazy. The whole setup, all the wires, everything.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
What's up with the home studio and like new gear and like new sounds or like textures that are like inspiring you? Like, what are you working on, like in the lab? Like, what's piquing your curiosity?
There's so much going on right now, actually. So like, I wanted to introduce a new synthesizer into the workshop, and I had the wonderful privilege of receiving the Juno 60 from this band called Neon Indian, if anyone's ever heard of them.
Heard of them. Come on.
They're one of those acts that when
Polish Girl, right?
Yeah, when Polish Girl came out, it was like the song I played, the top of every mixtape, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I loved his the lead guy, Alan Palermo, something like that.
Yeah.
He just has this way about him. I really enjoy his brand. And he made that record with this Juno and a couple other synthesizers, and he was selling it. And I got a random email from the person he was selling it through, like, just, hey, here's this synth. What do you think?
It was like a synth clearinghouse or something?
Actually, so funny enough, there's just this website, kind of like eBay for music equipment, called reverb.com.
Sure, yeah.
So reverb.com, I've been a huge fan of, because it literally is the perfect place to sell and buy used gear, because they have everything, and it's really great pricing, not too much haggle, and they just recently started doing this thing where they like have featured artists having a store. And that feature artist this time was the guy from Neon Indian, and he had like, a good chunk of his studio for sale, because he was buying new equipment, so he was replacing some old stuff, and like, here's his web store. And as soon as I got the link, I looked, and a third of it was already gone, because this was blasted to some of the other members of this Reverb.com
for sure
newsletter. So I was like, what
What's
can
left?
I afford?
Yeah.
And I saw the Juno 60, which is a keyboard that I've been inspired by ever since I started listening to music. Like, the Juno was like on every 80s track, you know what I mean? It was a huge kind of like the vibe of the Stranger Things theme. Mm-hmm. That's played on a Juno as well. So like, it's just in popular music for synthesizers. So I really wanted it, and I got it. Sounds great. But yeah, on top of that, I just keep inviting new musicians over to the house and working on new projects. Like, I've been working with local artists like Sun Signs and Bangarang on some records of theirs.
As a producer, kind of.
Yeah, well, mostly an engineer. That's kind of where
Okay.
I always just would rather be an engineer. But if they need some assistance or they want, you know what I mean? If there's a question, sure, I'll help out in that regard. But I really like artists to do what they do. You know what I mean? Like it's nowadays, if you don't produce yourself, I almost would suggest that to every artist. Not in terms of like make your own music and whatever, but like understand what you should be singing on or what you should introduce musically for yourself. And those bands do that for sure. Like Sun Signs has a sound.
Dude,
that
guy's voice,
yeah,
and the way
right.
he constructs the structure of the song
Yeah.
and the way his melody fits in,
Exactly.
it's instantly recognizable.
Right.
And then when you watch him do it in person, you're like, Christian's a madman.
Yeah. Super awesome dude. And then also Bangarang, same way. They have a brand. They do their thing, and I'm just happy to, help them kind of record it the best they can. And then I've also started working with Polienzo a bit. So they're working on a new album, and I don't know how much I can give away, but they're working on record deals and everything else, and that's apparently going well. So we've been doing like vocal tracks at the house and working on synth arrangements, and I'm also working with Alex from Polienzo and his girlfriend have a side project called Millennium Youth, which is one of the greatest acts in town right now.
They play JT Brown's thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and they're just super, super talented, both of them. So we work together on their EP as well, and so yeah, I love bringing people to the house and just using all that gear and just getting deep into it. It's been really great.
And how long has it been since you made that leap from the previous life that you had, kind of doing sound with somebody else, kind of signing the checks?
That was December of 2016 is when I started completely 100% freelance on my own, and I had the best year I've ever had this past year, completely alone, even after being with a salary job, which is something I couldn't even have imagined, a year before. And, just to be able to have an open schedule because I can make it myself, to be like, hey, what do you have if there's an event? If somebody asks, like you were saying earlier, it seemed like I was playing a lot of shows, and really it came down to the fact that like people were asking, and I was like, I am available. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
might as well.
If I'm not having to really do the legwork of putting a show together, like I think that's the hardest part. So if somebody else is gonna go to the trouble of putting a show together and putting bands together and being like, hey, like we'd love to have you, that would really complete our show. Like, absolutely, like no problem.
And how far or how fast have you gotten the setup time now? Because I remember we were talking about that in episode 4, like how long it could take you to actually put your thing together. Where are you at now?
So now it's kind of like, you ever watch the Boston Dynamics dog robot thing that they make, right?
It can open its own door now.
Yeah, like
which I don't know if we should worry about.
We definitely should worry about it. But if you watch it, like the evolution of this dog, like at first it was big and bulky and it would weigh 1,000 pounds, but you could still kick it and it wouldn't fall over. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of my original set. But if you keep watching, like they've introduced more nimble ones, smaller ones, more sleek ones, ones that seem more human or more animal.
Yeah.
So I feel like my setup is sort of in that same kind of iterative mutation. So now it's like I've taken all the clutter away. There's a lot less gear on stage now because I wanted to be able to travel. And if I got someone to call and say, "Hey, could you be in LA tonight for a showcase or whatever?" In the event that it happens, I have a kit for traveling, and I try to make that kit the exact same one as what's on stage as much as I can. So that I can be comfortable with where things are, get back in that muscle memory groove whenever I'm playing. So now, literally, to set it up, I like to set up on the side of the stage just to not waste time on changeovers. So maybe 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on the size of the setup, for myself alone to set it up. On stage in 10 to 15 minutes, and then off stage in 5 minutes, and then breakdown is about 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
You hear
If
that?
I'm by myself.
It's awesome.
The thing though is, but that makes sense because it's at least to me, to the layman, looking at this, it's like it's such an elaborate setup that I'm like, it's amazing that you can get it on stage in 10 to 15 minutes or something like that.
When I first saw it, I thought it was fake. 'Cause I was like, dude, all these wires, this is unreal.
Yeah.
But then you just watch it go, and you're like, oh damn,
Yeah.
this is real shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You hear that in indie shoegaze bands that spend 20 minutes setting up your pedal board. Check out
Come to
Freedback's
Freedback
Come
show,
to Freedback show and see how it's done.
Efficiency is important.
Are you still using those like standing lights that you had put together?
Yes. So I've changed up the lighting setup as well and added and subtracted. And there's two specific lighting rigs that I've set up. One of them is the one you're describing, which is 5 LED stands that are tubes of LEDs. I think 32 per spire, 5 of them. And they're all pixel mappable. So I could make essentially images on these 5 LED towers. So that is more of the complex programming language that sometimes I have to use 2 computers to run, because one computer runs Ableton and all the music, and another computer of the same make runs all the video and lighting if I introduce that one, because it's just a little too much headroom to make that thing run. And if I have both on the same computer, the video, lighting, and audio on a MacBook Pro, I'm running like 350% CPU, which is way too much.
Yeah.
So
that's like 20 porn windows open.
yeah.
That's a lot of Pornhub.
So yeah, I have used that every once in a while, but the easier one is my other setup, which is these Chauvet moving LEDs. So they're all on motorized heads. There's 4 very long kind of LED banks, I guess, which all can move up and down, individually mappable as well. There's also 2 spotlights that have individual control, individual moves, and I can program all of those and control them from the stage, only using like 5% more of the CPU that on one computer. So it's like that one I can bring anywhere. And then if I'm going to really set up a system where the visuals need to be on point and the lighting or whatever, I'm going to use 2 computers for sure.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about what you got planned for Okeechobee. What are you bringing? Yeah. So you're bringing obviously some kind of modified setup there.
Yes,
You're going to be outdoors, like how or what's going on?
Yeah. So this is kind of there's 4 days of the festival, and I'm booked in an area of the festival which they call Moonlight. Something. Gosh, I forget. Moonlight Oasis. It's called. So I'm playing in an area that.
Is that where Snoop Dogg's going to be?
Yeah, I think so. I hope.
Yeah, I hope.
I hope me and Snoop.
Sir Morgan Freeman is with the Sprite.
So this area is kind of where like all of the Burning Man style big art expositions are, and one of those stages is kind of like one of the later stages that plays music. And I'm on that stage for 3 out of the 4 days. And so Thursday, the first day, my slot is 3 a.m. for an hour.
All right.
I'm the last one on that stage. It's just going to be super weird. So I'm going to make it as visually stimulating as I can, but also like it's just going to be a very fun set because it's just going to be weird. Friday, same stage at like midnight.
Okay.
Which is just about when the main stages wrap. So it's kind of a good time to have something happen there. And then Sunday, I'm doing a 3 a.m. slot as well, 3:30 to 4:30, which will be the very last slot on the entire festival, apparently.
Wow. So you're closing it down.
I'm closing the festival, apparently. We'll see. There might be
You
some
and
other
Arcade
band.
Fire.
Yeah, and Arcade. They're still playing Encore number 5.
Exactly.
And then on Saturday, I'm doing a whole nother thing, which is they have this tower of CRT televisions, old cathode ray tube televisions, and that used to be at Venture Compound, if you remember that.
TV Mountain.
The TV Mountain, yes. So the TV Mountain will be at Okeechobee Fest for the whole thing, and on Saturday I'll be plugging into TV Mountain and doing like a improv ambient, art installation set in the middle. Like the middle of the night as well, probably around 11 p.m. on Saturday.
That sounds amazing.
So yeah, it's going to be a lot of stuff that I normally do for the other 3 days, but then that day I'm going to bring the theremin out. I'm going to bring some of the other weird gizmos and
Always
stuff.
bring
So
the theremin
yeah, I'm going
out.
to try to do 2 majorly different sets, and then since it's all 4 days, I'll try to keep introducing new things, and it should be fun.
Holy crap!
Yeah, no,
that's
that's
really cool.
I'm so stoked to see you do something
Yeah.
with TV Mountain.
Yeah, what will you all be there? Will you be there?
I am so scared to go to that festival because I'm not ready to like just be like I'd get really fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
It would
not
just
like
fuck
be like
you up.
fucked up drunk and like an asshole, but I would just be in another place.
Is it
I-
overstimulation?
I don't
you
know
think?
if I'm ready to do it. And then it's right before GMF.
Yeah, it is. The
which
week
is
before.
which is tough, and I guess now it's more feasible than before when I was working for GMF. But there was
Yeah.
no way I could do it before.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. It all depends on the schedule, I guess.
Yeah, that's my issue is because it's GMF and then I'm flying to South by like the day after GMF.
Wow.
So
March is busy.
March is very busy.
Yeah.
But we are going to have Chris, one of our interns, is going to be at Okeechobee. So
Oh, yeah,
I'll make
nice.
sure that he.
Yeah, we'll have
He
somebody
catches
there.
your set,
LJ
yeah.
will be there for Creative Loafing.
Very cool.
So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm curious, and this might not even make the podcast, but
Sure.
I like that you're getting all these gigs, and I think that when you talk about it on the mic like this, and all the shit that you're into, and the way that it's unfolding, it almost seems like magical or mystical, or like it happened by happenstance. But I've literally been watching you play music since I was 14 years old, like, and I think like I always like to hear about what reliability means, and like you've literally been doing music. It's been like the sole focus of your life
Yeah.
since before I had pubic hair, right? So, and just to watch you do it now, that doesn't happen by accident. So, if like you could talk about what reliability is, what it's like to just like show up to a gig and do it right, and like, like make the right connections and just treat people well, and,
Yeah.
and how do you end up, you know what I mean? Like, how do you get from there to there?
Right.
Like what are the things that you did right that maybe a lot of people have done wrong?
Wow. I mean, I guess it all starts with having pride in what you do, really. I mean, like, I'm so happy to show people something I know or something I've created. Like, it's the lifeblood of me. Like, when I was young, like I would have like a little transformer toy or something like that, and I would just be so infatuated with it, and I'd show somebody on the playground, and they'd be like, whatever, and I would like cry because I'm like, what do you mean whatever? This is so cool. So like I want just to, I've always wanted to do something like this and continue to do music and audio as my sole purpose in life. So it's just starting with being really, happy with what you do, being proud of what you have accomplished, and it persistence. And I think what you're saying about reliability, like,
No, I've never heard a promoter talk shit about you.
well, that's great.
that's the
good to hear.
ultimate. That's the
'Cause
ultimate.
you never know.
Yeah.
No, but I want everyone that I work with, or everyone that I even come in contact with, to just try to come away from that meeting with a positive attitude about me and about the event, or about, whatever. Like, I really like being involved with things that people are inspired by, and doing my best to make sure that I pull my weight in the circumstance. So like, if that's the way that people actually are perceiving where I'm coming from, then great, because that's definitely what I'm trying to do. Is just not flake, be on time, be courteous, try not to ever have an ego, because there's always going to be someone better than you in anything you want to do, in every facet of life. Yep. So don't think that like, you, for some reason, because they got it and you don't, that you can't be there, or that you should be mad at them for being there. It's just like, that should be inspiration to just keep going, because you're doing the same thing they are. They got there somehow, and if you keep doing it, it's like anything else. Like, eventually stars align. Like, at first it's all chaos. Like, there's no harmony in the world. But then when the same cycle happens over and over and over again, all those random particles just disappear, and the ones that are orbiting each other get stronger, and then it becomes a planet. You know what I mean? Like, that's evolution.